Jason Alcoholic. Man, it's an honor when Patch asked me yesterday to lead at this meeting. This is a special place for the guys that have never been here. I'm sure you can feel it. Welcome to our newcomer and the chip takers. And whoa, what a great birthday little session we just had there. Jacob, Sean, and I were the 1 year crew, and I remember when I took my 90-day chip, I think, or one of the ones, 90 or 6 months, and Jacob's like, "Oh, when's your sobriety day?" I said, "Oh, the 29th." He's like, "It's 28th." And we're a bunch of little fucking kids. Hey, brought me over to show our jobs. It's the 29th, okay. It was good. It was, we need that, and those guys are special guys in my life, and welcome, Steve. And Christopher, Corey, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
So I'm going to try to get a lot of sharing in here for us here. I'm not going to get too much into it. I don't want to try to quote it, so I'm going to just read it. So for me, the causes and condition of my alcoholism are in the big book. It's in We Agnostics. If when you honestly want, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take, you are probably alcoholic. That's my story. That's period. The end. When I drink, when I put alcohol into my body, I cannot predict or tell you what's going to happen. I've gone out for a drink to watch a game, and I've had to nudge the person in the seat next to me, asking him where this plane is going to land. All 4 times it happened, it was Vegas. I could be in that area. I could be in Vegas and come to from a blackout and signing these little slips they have you sign, and seeing numbers that no way I'm ever going to be able to pay back, and having a conversation with my casino host and him saying, "Well, don't you remember last night at the bar you asked me to increase your marker limit?" I said, "Yeah, I remember." Or even the worst, coaching a youth football game at 9 a.m, having a 3-year-old's birthday party at 3 o'clock, and thinking that I can just go have a beer with these guys to celebrate a victory and go see my daughter, and then having to explain to her on Monday morning why Daddy wasn't home for 2 days. That's what happens when I drink alcohol. So that's the causes and conditions of that. And I have a disease that centers in my mind. So I can be standing in the wreckage of my life in a building that's on fire, and I'll think it's a good idea to have a drink. I can be in front of DCFS worker where the best case scenario is going to have supervised visits, and the more likely scenario that I wasn't going to see my daughter. I can say, "Okay, thank you," and I can get up from that table and I can go take a drink, because that's what my mind tells me to do. And those are the causes and conditions of my alcoholism, and that's the reality. And there's a ton of other stories that I can tell, and we can all tell. And I've heard them up here, and I've heard them at the retreat, and I've heard them at the tables and the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. So my sobriety date is July 29th of 2023. And it's not my first sobriety date, but it's the one I have today, and it's the one I plan to keep for today, one day at a time. Consequences, conditions of my alcoholism started early. And I came into these rooms, and I would come in, and it was around 2007, and I would come in, and I would hear what you have to say, and I would walk out the room, and I'd be dying of alcoholism still. And I'd come in, and I'd hear what you had to say, and I'd walk out the room, and I'd be dying of alcoholism still. And, consequences weren't that bad for me. They were bad, but to me, they just weren't that bad until one time, those aforementioned little slips that you take from the people at the casino, they expect you to pay them back. It is also not a credit card, so it's not like you can say, "Oh, I just don't want to pay you. You can ruin my credit." It is a felony, and I was arrested for a felony fugitive fleeing warrant from Nevada. My wife wouldn't take my calls. My mom wouldn't take my calls, and I spent a little bit of time in Orange County, and that was just enough consequence to get me with my tail between my legs to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I went inside the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous in 2012, and I thought I got it. And what I felt was relief, right? I felt that relief that these rooms can bring. I felt the relief that these rooms can bring listening to your stories, just like the relief I felt when I drank. That relief was there. And I was desperate, but I wasn't willing to surrender. So the reality of that is that I spent 2 years white-knuckling it, lying. I've heard rigor-ish honesty. It was rigorless honesty. There was no honesty. I did a 4-step, and I left off my biological dad, for example, because, I had done therapy on that, and I'm okay with it, and it doesn't matter to me anymore, right? And I left off the shame and the guilt that I had from something that happened when I was 11 that should never happen to an 11-year-old boy. And I left that off. But I was still finding relief, and I was talking the talk, and those of you that know me and those of you that don't, I can spin a yarn, man. I'm a salesman by nature. And so everybody in the room thought it was great. And then that relief stopped, but I'd still come in the rooms, and once again, after about 2 years, I was walking out the room and I was dying of alcoholism. And I'd come in, and the relief wasn't there, and I'd go out, and I was dying of alcoholism. And the reality was that it was just a matter of time. Because I didn't do what it says on page 30, fully concede to my innermost self that I'm an alcoholic. That's the first step in recovery. I was like Jacob. I'm going to beat this game, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to sell it to you. I love that, because I would have done that for sure. Okay, so here's the deal, guys. I got a few things that you want to hear about, right? And then, secret drinking can't be secret for long. And the wife found out, and this time it was the end. And I was like, finally, the reason I'm drinking like him is because of this bitch, right? Fuck her. And now I don't have to hide it. And I went out for 8 years. And the 18 months before July 29th, I went to bed every night, and I wished I was dead. And it wasn't one of those things where I placate you and say, oh, I wish I was dead. It was, I truly wished I didn't wake up. I've shared here before, my brother has committed suicide, so I just had that little sliver of not being able to do it. And July 29th of last year, it wasn't anything that happened that was too much more than what had happened. It was just another time that I was going to go watch a football game, and then I ended up throwing a pizza at one of my buddies from across the bar, and they're like, you can't stay here anymore. And I'm like, okay. And but that had happened before. It wasn't some thing. And my wife sat on the edge of the bed, and she said, do you think you need some help? And, Norm Alpe talks about those seconds and inches in your sobriety, right? And that was the first second of my sobriety. I went to a treatment center, but I wasn't going to come back to these rooms because, don't you know, it doesn't work. I'm going to figure out another way to do it. There's a Buddhist recovery program. I can go to Al-Anon. I can do a lot of things. And the reality is that I walked into a room of Dunsmore. For some reason, I got another moment of hope. I walked into Dunsmore at 6 a.m., and a man that's been to this meeting that I know, before I could scuttle out of there, he grabbed my hand and said, I really hope you come back. And a little piece of his heart talked to a little piece of my heart. And then I was going to a noon CASA meeting in Pasadena, where some of you know Jonathan, Big Jonathan, he's the secretary there. I was sitting on the bench outside, and he came in and he said, how are you doing? I hope you keep coming back. And a little piece of his heart touched a little piece of my heart. And I finally called my old sponsor, and I broke down, and he said, come see me. And we read the doctor's opinion. And we went through, and we did the work that day. We did the old school build up, let's get on our knees, let's get through this, let's get through the third step. But we got on our knees and did the third step prayer. And a little piece of that man's heart touched a little piece of my heart. And he said to me, Jason, are you ready to come all the way in and sit all the way down? And I was, and I did. And I came to this meeting, and I met a few guys. Second time I was here, I signed up for the retreat not knowing anybody. I'm like, how do I pay? They're like, pay this guy Alistair. I'm like, here you go, Alistair. Here's $95 on Venmo. I hope that motherfucker doesn't steal it. Now that I know him, I'm still suspect whether or not he did not take that money. I'm kidding. And I went to the retreat. And, I want to talk a little bit about, and I'll kind of wrap it up so we can get some sharing going on. But I just wanted you guys to know a little of the causes and conditions of my alcoholism. I hope somebody here can relate to that. I hope the newcomer can relate to that. I hope if you're here with 2 years of sobriety like I was, and you're walking out of the rooms dying of alcoholism, I hope you talk to somebody. Daniel Thrasher and I talked about 6 months ago when there was about 6 months ago, when there was a gentleman from this meeting who had a long-term sobriety. There were some problems. It was all over the news. And we started talking about men who had gone out with multiple years of sobriety, who had gone to the desert, not just to drink, but to put a bullet in their head, right? And I can relate to that. And we talked and we said, it's because they have no one to talk to. It's shame, it's guilt. I've got 10, 20, 30 years. Who am I supposed to talk about this? So I hope if you hear this, don't walk out of that room without talking to somebody. I've said some crazy stuff to people in this room. This room is special. The first time, the guys here for the first time, and the newcomer, this is a special, special room. There is no two ways about it. And you know why I know that? Because the guys in this room are doing the deal. Because they call me. They reach out to other people I know. You know, this is a perfect meeting for me. I'm sicker than most, right? And the reality is that I now live in recovery, not relief. I go to meetings. I don't want to get onto the topic of meeting makers make it and don't drink no matter what and keep coming back, right? I go to meetings to find recovery now, not to find relief. I get the relief. It's a byproduct. I love it. But I come to find recovery. I come to hear guys that are like, hey, we're going to a duck hunting situation and we're going to all be together and we're going to be sober. We're going to a show and we're going to be sober. Hey, can you come play golf with me? We're going to play golf sober. Then I can call those men as I'm driving to a golf tournament that none of them are going to be at, that's a big drink fest, and I can put another layer of the roof on me as I drive up there and talk to those guys, right? That's the recovery I get. My sponsor tells me to get in, and the man in this room who I work with tells me to get in also and says, get right in the middle. I wanted to go on more H&I panels. People weren't inviting me to H&I panels. So I fucking went and got an H&I panel, right? Because that's what I need to do for recovery, right? I got a sponsor and I have a spiritual advisor. Again, I'm sicker than most, right? Because I need somebody that's physically in the room with me, and my sponsor's out in Hermosa Beach. And I trust that man with everything, and I listen to what he says. And I absolutely know that those two people will never conflict in their advice, even if I don't tell them what the other person said, because they follow God, because they have a spiritual program, because they put this deal in action, and they have recovery. They just don't have relief. There's a special guy in this room that I come every Wednesday with, Jimmy, and I drag him to this meeting. And I say I drag him to this meeting, but it's one of the most special times of my week, that ride to and from our house to this meeting. I've told him stuff in there that's been bugging me. He's told me stuff that bug him, but that's the deal. We do it together. We can talk about it. You guys know that, The Town, you know, the movie The Town. Whose car are we going to take, right? Like, that's what it is. Or, you know, the old adage of get in the car, right? Let's go do it. You know, I changed to whose car are we going to take now, so I've officially trademarked that in the Alcoholics Anonymous analyst. But that's the reality, right? The reality is, and do you know how I know that? Because people in this room tell me, oh, hey, Patch called me. Oh, hey, Tom called me. Patrick called me. Jacob called me. Jacob, man, I got to say, I love this kid. He comes to a meeting. No one was stepping up to take the phone list commitment at a Monday night meeting. That's nothing like this, but a great meeting. And he's like, fine, I'll fucking take it. Because he's doing the deal and he's sitting in the middle, right? Sit in the middle, do the deal, find people we can run with. That's the deal. I've got trudging buddies. I've got people that I trust. And to go back to that other thing, I told a man about my father. And I'm going to, and this is the topic I want to end. I told this man about my father who left me when I was 6 months old. And I wasn't going to make amends because why the fuck do I need to make amends? And I told this man what happened when I was 11 years old that I've never told anybody, right? And then I keep going to these meetings and I hear people talking about their fathers who they've never met. How Herb K, who's out there, said to this guy Steve, you know, you got to take your father off the hook. Take him off the hook. You got to forgive him. Fuck that. I'm not going to do that. Okay. And it still came up. Steve, I'm still feeling this. Yeah, okay, well, have you wrote his name on the card, your amends card? I go, no, fuck that guy, I'm not doing that. And then I wrote his name on the card. And he said, and I said, fucking still, fuck. Did you write the back of the card? Did you write the amends? Fuck that guy, he left me when I was 6, fuck that guy. And then I wrote what the amends is on the back of the card. And I found out where he lives. And I shared that at a meeting and I was scared, and I'm scared still. And a man came up to me and he said, Jason, I'll go with you. If you want to go there, I'll go with you. Because that's what we do in this room. Because that's what we do in this program. Because without that, I can't do it. I cannot do this program. As Donut Dave says, alcohol was my master. Literally. I could not stop drinking. And, we do regular things regularly, man. We come, Wednesday night, what are you doing? I'm going to my meeting. What do you do on Tuesday? I've got a panel. Oh, we're going to go to dinner. Oh, I can't do that in that weekend in October or April. I've got a retreat. We do regular things regularly, and I know that because you guys do regular things regularly. And I want to thank you guys for keeping the lights on for a drunk like me. Thank you for my life, guys. Yeah.